Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us for episode 2 of the Data Squad. A little bit about the Data Squad for those of you who are new. It's a program where Mike and I are joined by experts from the industry to walk through solutions to your big data challenges. And this week, we're going over how to mitigate risk by setting rate limits and reducing user access to data. As Holly mentioned, Data Squad is meant to be interactive, so questions and collaboration are encouraged. If you have a question, please keep yourself muted and raise your hand, or put it in chat, and we'll call it out. So why don't we go around the table and introduce our host for today's episode? I'll go first. My name is Ethan Newman. I'm an applications engineer here at ALTR, and I get to work on product integrations and cool projects and research and development. And I'm going to pass it on over to you, Mike.
Hi, my name is Mike Kravick. I'm a solution architect at ALTR, and I work with customers to get them successful with ALTR as a platform, with Snowflake as well as other databases and other technologies. And pass it over to our friend Paul.
Hey, I'm Paul Gans. I'm a partner solutions architect at Snowflake, working with our data governance and security partners, including, of course, ALTR.
Fantastic. So like what Ethan was saying, talking about rate limiting and governance, here at ALTR, we believe that it's more than just access control that's important. It's the ability to stop queries, or at least report on queries that could potentially be dangerous. And we were going to just get to that part of ALTR to show you how that works, but that wound up taking about 2 minutes. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through really the entire life cycle. So for those of you that have used Snowflake before, you're going to get to see what it takes just to get a trial, 30-day trial running, and then go into Partner Connect, set up with ALTR, and then we'll also load up just a sample database, 10,000 records, nothing crazy, and then start applying policy to it. So hey, Ethan, do you want to hop on and start presenting the part where we start working with some Snowflake?
Yes.
In your web browser.
And the fun and exciting part of this is, I know you're using a bunch of native Snowflake data governance features under the covers, but ALTR is really being the easy button for those features, and the rate limiting part is really something that's different, and will be a lot of fun to look at.
Awesome.
All
right. So you guys can see my browser, right?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. I'm just going to go to snowflake.com and hit start for free, get signed up. Fill out some information.
Yeah, and there's going to be some form fill here, so our apologies for some of that. But the way we try to run Data Squad is be semi-scripted. So we've actually played around with this before, obviously, but this is going to be as much of a let's try to make things work as possible. So hopefully we don't run into any problems, but if we do, we'll just work through them.
And we've learned that Ethan is not a robot, which is good.
Yep.
Exactly. We've all passed the Turing test. So continue with working with data.
And for anyone who's listening or watching today that doesn't have a Snowflake account already, Ethan is really just going through the process of setting up a trial, literally from the beginning, and in a couple of minutes, you'll be ready to start running loading data and running queries.
All right, so let's see, we signed up. We should be getting an email any second.
Just want to make sure I got this email right. That could cause problems. There we go.
All right.
Data Squad. All right, and with that, we should be into Snowflake.
Right, with a brand new account, and so there's obviously nothing in there yet. and
So our
be able to start loading some data, showing how quickly you can get policy even and enforcement of policy on that data.
Exactly.
exactly.
And what Ethan's going to do next is we're just going to load some data. We wanted to have a table that we can apply policy to. We're even going to use the classification capabilities in ALTR. And with that, we're just going to create a quick database as well as load some data or load a table within that database. Normal situations, quite sure you'd expect you're already going to have your databases set up, and we would need to start classifying that information. You can classify that with, if you do have an enterprise classification platform like Calibra or Relation or something like that. You can actually tie into ALTR using our API. Otherwise, we're probably a minute or two away of just getting to some actual data to do some classification, and hopefully that won't take too long. It's that uses Google DLP, so that'll take a few minutes. But what Ethan's cranking out right now is just, we've already set up a table file format.
I don't have the table set actually quite yet.
Oh, do you need the table?
I've got the
UDL?
CSV. I actually don't remember how to upload the CSV.
Okay, so then just you need to create the table, and I'm going to throw that in the chat.
Thank you.
Yeah, whenever I find I've got 5,000 windows open and there's a chat somewhere around here. Here we go.
Oh, yep.
Did you find it?
Yeah, I got it. Thank you.
Okay.
Forgot step number 1.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, and he's just, and while Ethan's doing this, I know you're just going to load a file from a CSV. That's the quick, easy way to get data into Snowflake. You can always just load it from the CSV through this UI, but in real life, you're probably not doing that much. You're really loading from S3 buckets or GCS or Azure Blob Storage with secure data that's sitting there that's come in through a data engineering pipeline. But
so net is, this is
an easy way to do it.
Definitely not a best practice, but when you're loading a small file,
it's a best practice for me when I just need to throw some data up and play around with it. It's the easiest thing to do.
Something you'll never see in production, but thankfully that feature is there because it just makes it so simple to throw in a file. But let's see what we have. We've got a table, we have customer data, we have 10,000 records. Nothing crazy, but we have enough information about some people, some fake people, of course. And now let's bring in ALTR to the situation.
Perfect. So I can do that really easily through Snowflake through Partner Connect, and ALTR is just right here at the front. And we'll pick our database. I'm going to reload the page so it shows up.
And while he's doing that, right now, if he's using the classic UI, if you're in Snowsite, just a hint, Partner Connect moved. It's not in as obvious place, but it's on. If you're in the new Snowsite UI, it's to the left. You'll see a button that says, or something that says admin. Click on admin, and you'll see Partner Connect under that.
All right.
Perfect.
But now we're starting from scratch with a brand new ALTR account connected to Snowflake.
Exactly. So yeah, everything, we're really starting from zero here. What that was just we do have some software that helps you do a walkthrough. We should know what we're doing, and we do. So we're going to skip the walkthrough and really just get to the data.
Yep.
So what was I going to say?
If you've got the data loaded, now we're going to take a look at it.
Yep. Step number 1 is setting up our service user, actually.
Exactly.
So you can do that at docs@alter.com, and then connect your database with Partner Connect. And right here is just stored procedure you're going to copy, and that will do all the setup for you.
Exactly. Now there's just to double click on what's in that stored procedure. Essentially what we're doing is we're going to use the account admin role once. That's to set everything up. From there, this stored procedure goes through and specifically defines only the grants that are required for Alter to function. And Paul, what would you say about just giving alternate services account admin capabilities, so having that role? That
Yeah,
would be
probably not a great idea to give a service account admin capabilities. So, the goal is always least privilege. And the problem on Partner Connect is that it creates a user, it creates a role. It takes least privilege really to another level and gives them basically no privilege. So you need a little more than that, and that's why that's why it's really important to be able to just really quickly and easily just create all the privileges needed that Alter is going to need for that user without you having to worry about how to do that. So that's why that script and that stored procedure is just great. Just makes life easier.
Yeah, exactly. So now let's see, we've done the integration, right? Sometimes that happens so
Yep.
fast, it gets a little, sometimes I get lost. So
Yep, we had success.
All right. So now let's connect to our new database, our customer data database. That's going to be more typing. So I will provide some talking on top of that. But we're also going to do is we're going to classify this data. So this is going to probably take, I don't know, 2-3 minutes. So be prepared to do some more talking, or if anyone's on the call that has any questions or comments, feel free to shout those out at this point, because we just need to let Google do its thing.
Yeah, and right now, I'll just add that right now I know that Alter is using Google DLP under the covers to do the classification. Snowflake just came out with our own classifiers and our own classification for anyone that's on the phone that's interested. Just check it out. It's in the docs. Just look up data classification. And I hope I'm not giving away anything, but Alter, I know, maybe in the future we'll be using that to do the classification.
Yes, we're looking forward to having that at GA within the product, and that should be happening really soon. Mm-hmm. But in the meantime, what's happening now is, since this data is going out to the internets and is, that's an angle of exposure for data. So what we've done to protect it is every field, we're not using data in the same row. So we're just interleaving all of the fields and all of the rows so that there's no possible way for somebody to reconstruct a single row of data if they happen to capture the entire thing. So this only took a couple of minutes. So we have 17 columns in the table, like I said, 10,000 records. So, a very, very modest, let's say this is a medium data type of
but even in general, it shouldn't take very long. It really just depends on how many columns. It shouldn't really matter that much how much data, because this tends to use a sample anyway.
Yeah, very good.
Exactly.
Yeah, really good point, Paul. Thanks for that. But here's the classification report that we provide. We're using Google's classifiers along the left. And yeah, Ethan, take it away and let's govern a field.
Absolutely. So I'm just going to pick this social security number field to govern, and we can, oh, it's already added. Perfect. So we can, let's double check here. Okay, let's go through and manually edit. So I'm going to pick the table and the column, give it a name, just call it SSN.
Yeah, it was the SSN field.
Did I miss it?
Yeah, you missed it. No worries.
There we go. Thanks.
Again, demoing without a net.
Yep. All right. And we've added data to Alter.
So at this point, it's worth noting one thing that we do is now we write down a masking policy to Snowflake. And this is something we typically don't expose when we're, doing demos and, doing our enablement with customers, but I think it's really worth kind of digging into this. So you can see showing masking policies. We have one masking policy. And then
We can take a look at the definition of that.
and this is where it actually gets really interesting. And the reason for that is this is a standard for Snowflake perspective. This is a standard masking policy. And what winds up happening is when you query Snowflake, this masking policy initiates the external function to go to ALTR's policy engine. And then we return a value that gets managed through rows 18 through 33. And that's how we work together between ALTR and Snowflake to manage masking policy. So what does this do? Is this avoids you having to write a masking policy with a case statement with all of the roles that need to be involved. And Paul, feel free to add any commentary on what you've seen with that kind of code.
Yeah, like I said, this is the easy button, right? So a lot of times when you're writing masking policies, they get fairly complex. And especially when you need to combine things and you have lots of roles. Here, this is the super simple example. This is one table, one column. Imagine you have hundreds of tables, or thousands of tables, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of columns, and you have to apply these policies to all of that. It can get really tricky. It's a lot easier to use a tool like ALTR to do that.
Yeah, and I've usually in situations like this where you're going from programming to something that's API driven and really automated, it's even not the first time that you have to do that, because you can, if you had to, you can bang out these masking policies. It would take you a while, but you can bang it out. It's when they change, and that's when it turns into a problem. So if you're adding, let's say, a handful of roles or even just one role, well, which one of them winds up getting changed? Now you need to go through some lineage management and tracking to figure out how you would do that. So again, like Paul said, definitely the easy button and really makes it simple. All right, let's go and let's get to the part where we really are supposed to be and start making some locks and some thresholds.
So why don't you explain what a lock and a threshold is?
Thanks, Paul. So what a lock is that's how we encapsulate access and masking policies. And let's just make those as we're going here. So what the locks do is give you the ability to define which user groups and also which columns and how they get treated. So in this case, we're going to see, I think we're just going to have this one as no mask, right?
Yep.
And then the next one would wind up being, so I'll add that lock. We're going to have multiple locks that work in tandem to provide different experiences based upon the role that you're in. So this one, we're going to have show last for, I think we're going to do public, right?
Yep.
And then we actually look at the same one. Or the same or a different masking policy in this case, showing the last four. So these wind up being, if you wanted to turn this into the analog of a traditional masking policy, these are the case statements that you're going through. So we have two different case statements. Technically, there's more. One of the things that's not here is all of the other roles. And because we've created these locks, by virtue of those locks, we've prevented any of these other roles from accessing data. So really the big benefit winds up being something that we aren't even demoing. Because of this, we have disabled the account admin from looking at social security number at all, which is actually really neat. Let's go back to Snowflake, and we should probably throw in those grant commands so that
public has access to this table.
You got it.
All came out as one big block. Okay, all I'm doing here is granting this role public access to a warehouse, to the database, to the schema, and to the table as well.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah. So now we'll be able to just do a select on social security number using different roles. And let's, yeah, we're on account admin right now. So this will be, I would just leave it as account admin right now
Okay.
and just show that it's going to break. So there you go. ALTR is preventing the account admin from seeing the data, which typically, you know,
So
actually,
Mike,
Paul,
yeah, explain how you guys do that, because this isn't the typical way that the account admin. So typically they would just see all the data, and then they would just get, you know, null or some masked value for the social security number.
yeah, exactly, Paul. So what we do is when that query occurs, since social security number is a sensitive field and has a masking policy, that masking policy that we wrote from ALTR to Snowflake invokes the external function. ALTR says the account admin shouldn't see this data because they're not inclusive in any of the locks. So it sends back a response saying to throw an exception for no permission.
Yeah, and that's really cool, that external function, because then you can use it for other things, which we'll see in a minute. But the key is really the fun thing, the way you do it is that you make it so that it only runs once. It's not an external function that gets called on every row. It really just gets run, you know, once, and comes back, tells you what you can do with what that query can do, right? And then, you know, and then you can throw an error, you can let the query run.
Exactly. And for those of you that have been playing around with ALTR, you can see the external functions in the query plan, and they take milliseconds. But it looks like, speaking of seconds, we've got about 5 minutes or so. So let's go and let's do the same query, but let's change the role to PC ALTR role.
Okay.
And
Can I
then
execute this query?
same query, but now we actually get social security numbers. And let's change over to public and do the same thing again. So that was, yeah, pretty quick, pretty easy. But now the interesting thing is, if somebody was able to get the PC ALTR role, they would be able to get all of the social security numbers. And that's usually how governance works right now. They have access to the table. You may have access to columns. You may have some row level filtering based upon your role. That's fine, but you'd be able to get everything that you have access to. What we can do, and let's hop over to thresholds, is be able to create another rule that prevents too much data from coming out. And that's through our thresholds. So our thresholds give you the ability to either just block the query, or generating an anomaly just creates a report. And typically customers are using access rate or time window. So it's going to be, is it too much data, or is it too much data over a certain period or during a certain time? So do you want people getting lots of data at 3 o'clock in the morning? Maybe not. It all depends on what your business needs. And let's just finish up the locks. So we're just going to have the no masking lock, and then the users is going to be a PC ALTR, right?
Yep.
And that's it. And again, this is all accessible through our API. So, you know, if you're using something like ServiceNow, you can just push this stuff right to ALTR. So now if we do a query.
So we have 10,000 rows in this table. So getting 10,000 should block me. Oh, I'm on the wrong row. Hold on. There we go.
There we go.
And that's cool. And especially also if you, you know, what you didn't show also is you could have done selected 500, selected 500, selected another 500, and right in the third one would block you.
Exactly.
Yeah, and we have a question.
Because you're keeping track of how many of what they've asked for.
Yep. We've got a question from John about the account admin can grant themselves the PC ALTR role to itself. Yes, and see the data. You know, there is that possibility, but that's something that would be tracked via the Snowflake table. So governance is not always 100% technology. It'd be great for that, but probably the governance would suck if it was 100% technology. So you've got to lean on process.
And that's one of the big benefits of thresholds is even though account admin can set themselves as PC alter role, they cannot select more than you allow. So you can view those, you can get a notification for somebody who's trying to access a lot of data, and you can go track those down.
Yeah, and one use case that we've had some customers do is, and this is typical with not social security number, but salary data. They've created thresholds to do alerts. So every time salary was queried in the database, the CFO got notified about it. So you can, set the alarm when like the bad tables start getting hit. And those are the real sensitive ones, regardless of whether you're internal, employees or customers. But that's really it. I mean, what we did.
You have a question? Dave has a question.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So this is a question for Paul. First of all, I loved your expression that you called this the easy button for policy automation for Snowflake. And I'm curious, given your experience out in the field, at what point in time are Snowflake customers realizing that they need the easy button? Is it before they buy Snowflake? Is it when they get halfway through the project, or what are you finding, and how is that trending?
So the way, and I think there's a few Snowflakes on the line as well, and they can chime in. But if you think about a way a lot of customers buy Snowflake, it might be for a specific project starting, and then they add additional workloads over time. So the answer really to your question is all of the above.
Okay.
It depends on the type of data that's being brought in. Hopefully this is all things that they're thinking about before they start.
Right.
And in general, they are for most workloads. But, for example, I may have a general sales workload that I'm running on Snowflake, and now I want to start bringing in HR data.
Right.
And so then it becomes, now I know I have some sensitive data. Hopefully right away, they will have classified their data. They'll know where the sensitive data is. They'll protect it, especially for a lot of smaller organizations that are just getting started. They get the data up, and then they start making sure that before they give users access to it, that they've got it all protected. The nice thing is that they can do all of that. They can start loading some sample data that they have, start classifying it, start really making sure that it's protected, and then really load the real data and start letting users on.
Got it. Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Do we have any other questions?
Mike, you're muted, by the way.
I am muted, so thank you for that. Yeah, I was going to ask exactly what Paul was asking. If anybody else has any questions or comments, love to hear them. And then if not, that is all that we had. So what we're able to do in a half hour with a lot of us just kind of chatting and talking, but we signed up for Snowflake, got that up and running, and loaded some data, connected to ALTR via Partner Connect, and we're able to do some rate limiting all within that half hour. And there weren't too many mistakes. What do you think, Ethan? I think we did good. We should give ourselves gold stars.
I agree.
So, all right. So thanks everyone for joining. Really appreciate it. And oh yeah, that was Dave's hand up from before. Okay. So if there aren't any other questions, love to see you again next week, or I should say next time. And we'll have another topic. We'll get hands-on with data.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.